Alrighty, let me set up my phone so I can use my hands. Do you know how much I like to talk with my hands?
I don't know what to do with my hands, like Ricky Bobby says. What do I do with my...
You can just look at them.
Do I just hold them up like this during the call?
You look good.
Yeah,
right
why
now.
not?
All right, everyone. This is the beautiful, wonderful Thomas Whigham. And he's not, I'm just kidding. Jenny Castro, everyone. And she's joining us today before she flies to where are you flying to?
Cleveland.
You're going to meet a beautiful boy?
Actually, no, I'm going to go with family.
Okay, cool. Well, she's joining us today before she gets packed and gets on the trip, so it's probably going to be a little bit shorter of a call. We had some technical issues, but thanks for being here. Tell people a little bit about yourself and what you're working on real quick.
All right, well, how do I begin? I'm 29 years old. I feel like I'm 23. I was born in Colombia. I've lived in the US most of my life. And I lived in France for almost 2 years. And I just moved back.
So you've had a lot of experience with men around the world. This is largely like we're going to focus on dating and interacting with men and women and your experiences. So you've seen different forms of courtship or just different ways men approach women. Does it change based on the part of the world you're in? For example, Colombia, America, France.
A little bit, yeah. So I would say in Colombia, the men are much more like touchy-feely. They're more physical, a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
Not in a good way.
Right.
I mean, I personally don't like it, but I didn't grow up in that culture, so I don't know if a woman that has grown up in that culture would actually appreciate that, but I don't think so. American men they can be aggressive, but they're not as physical, like not as physically aggressive, which I prefer. And then French are just, they're kind of ridiculous. They are not courageous, and they will stare at you and never come over and make a move. So basically they just have no balls.
Right. And so that's a good branching off point to talk about briefly. What are some things that men do that you find attractive when you're first meeting them? And let's talk a little bit about ways that you might signal that attraction.
I would say if I see a guy that just looks like he's very confident, has a good head on his shoulders, has his life figured out, and just kind of carries himself really well, dresses well, and that to me is attractive if it's somebody that I just see from afar and just kind of like catches my eye.
How much do you pay attention to things like fingernails even?
Women are very, very detail oriented. So they pay attention to the smallest things that you probably would not. So
because that's what's more revealing, right? Because if someone was trying to be deceptive, they wouldn't think to take care of that, so it can reveal more about them in a way, right?
I don't know. I think it's more simple than that. I don't know. You tell me. I feel like men are more simple. They're not so complicated, and they just kind of do whatever and don't even think about it or think about how it might come across to women. Whereas I think women think more the other way. They're like much more concerned with the little things.
I think deceptive was a bad word there. I don't think I was actually accurate about that. Yeah, I was thinking of a very specific type of person that overlooks things, but most men, you're right, it's just who they are.
That's just been my experience. But I will say like fingernails are something that women look at. Are you chewing on your fingernails when you're nervous? Are you sucking your thumbs when you go to dinner with me? Are you licking your thumbs when you finished eating a piece of food. I don't know, like that kind of stuff we pay attention to. We pay attention to which shoes you're wearing. Are they dirty? Are they nice shoes? You know, just like the little things that you wouldn't think.
Says a
How
lot.
clean your car is. Is your car clean? Is it, is your apartment clean? Do you have the necessities? Like I went to this guy's apartment once and it was just, he presented himself very well. He dressed very well. He came from money. And I went over to his apartment and it was a nice apartment, but it was like bare bones, like no decoration. There was, you can tell he didn't put any effort into his apartment. Like there was no hand soap. There was no shampoo. Like, and I just thought that was just so bizarre. Like, so you're not really, I don't know. It just made me feel like maybe he doesn't take care of himself as well as he pretends to take care of himself.
Yeah. And so when I was first starting to date lots of women regularly, I would do things that people would think were like silly, but have hair ties at the house, have extra toothbrushes, have extra soaps, have female razors. Like, and women would be like, oh, what's all this for? But then I'd be like, what do you think it's for? It's in case you needed it. And then they'd actually like have to respect that and think it was actually dope that I would do it. But at first, it might seem a little much, but it actually was usually really appreciated. If someone was going to be sleeping over that maybe didn't think they would, and there was a toothbrush or things like that.
That can backfire on you.
Yeah.
That can definitely backfire on you.
The way it backfires is they're like, oh, you do this a lot. And you just have to own it.
Yes.
You have to own it, though. You have to say, yeah, sometimes I do. It's not something
if
that...
I went over to a guy's apartment and I found a bunch of female products, number one, I would think a girl lives here.
Yeah,
he has a girlfriend.
But the man, there's a way that you present it. That's just how it is. And
yeah, but it just puts in this doubt in your mind that's unnecessary. I think it's one thing to have extra toothbrushes, you know, not hair ties. I don't like having hair ties or women's razors. No, have regular disposable razors, have regular toothbrushes. Don't make it like for women, because that's either they're gonna think that you have a girlfriend that you're hiding, or you have a lot of women over, and that's not attractive.
And how would that make you feel? If you start feeling like I'm just another woman to this guy who doesn't have a real connection, is that going to affect your attractiveness levels to him?
I mean, I guess it just depends on the girl. But for me personally, I don't find men that are with a lot of women very attractive.
Do you think that it doesn't feel as special?
It just feels like, I guess, like, if you're just going to have a one-night stand and that's what the woman is going into, like, knowingly, then, yeah, it's whatever. But it still, like, doesn't make my opinion of you any better.
Right. So you might still stick around for that, but you're not going to have as fond of a looking back on that kind of thing.
Yeah, then it's just going to be what it is, just like a one-night thing, I guess.
And now let's talk about... you said that I had mentioned that there might be ways that you might signal to a man that you're attracted to him. What are some things that you might do and that women might do if you're out in public, or maybe at a club is a good example, but anywhere really that you might do to show that you might be interested or attracted to a guy?
Well, so I'm the kind of girl that will never go up to a guy. Like, it's just not my personality. And I don't do that for a couple reasons. So one, I want to see if you have the courage to come up to me, because that is attractive. If I've given you the green light. So my signal tends to be if I see you at a bar or wherever, and I keep looking at you. And I'm like talking to my friends, but then I glance over at you, keep talking, I glance over at you again, maybe a little smile, you know. But that's my signal.
Right, let's talk about that. So when you're doing that, what would be the attractive response from a man? I mean, I assume I know it, but have you say it.
For him to come up to me, and just because it's been like clearly signaled that I want you to come up to me. If you come up to me, then to me, like, I'm like, okay, like that's exactly the kind of guy that I like, the guy that will see the green light and will go for it and just is not afraid to,
It's
whatever
almost
else.
like he's assuming he's worthy of the attention he's getting. He's going to come over and introduce himself now.
Yeah, it just shows courage. It shows confidence. It also makes the girl feel special because, you're in a room full of beautiful women and he's coming up to talk to you. So it just everyone wants to feel special. Everyone wants to feel significant. So even if it were a guy that I wasn't attracted to, I still at least respect the fact that he had the courage to come up to me. But if I'm just not physically attracted to you, it's not going to make me physically attracted to you. It's just I respect that guy for coming up to me.
But a lot of what women say is physical attractiveness is a combination of physical attractiveness and vibe, like confidence, energy, smile. So I do think there's overlap where it's physical attractiveness can also be almost like an aura, not just appearance. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's not just appearance, because you could be the hottest guy in the world, but this is personal preference.
Right.
So for me, I don't care how amazing you look. If I see you smoking a cigarette, that's done for me. You're not attractive to me anymore. Or if you start acting like a drunk fool and you're just too drunk, that is a huge turn off, for me. If I see that you can't hold your liquor, and you're just acting.
Composure and charm and grace are attractive traits.
Yeah, totally. Exactly.
So in that context, maybe there's not as much it's not as important necessarily what's being said. In this community, sometimes men put a lot of emphasis on lines. And I always say, I think it's better and Niall and I were just talking about this a little bit, what you're feeling will kind of dictate what you say, and how you're vibing with each other can kind of do it. Yeah, there should be things that you say. For example, if you wanted to see her again, you should say that. If you wanted to go get a drink with her, you should make that offer, or say, let's go do this, and lead. That's an attractive thing to lead once you've vibed. But trying to have a canned line doesn't seem like that would be appealing to you. Is that correct?
I don't like lines. Right. It just makes me feel like you're very generic and you are not clever enough to come up with, just a regular icebreaker to make it feel like a natural encounter. It just wouldn't feel natural to me. And it would make me feel like you do this all the time as well. So
they're just shotgunning at everything, and anything that lands, they're going to just stay with that if it works. But it's not genuine, doesn't feel authentic between the two of you.
Yeah, it doesn't feel authentic. So I'm not into the line.
Time right now, because I know you're going to be doing the flight, and time's going to kind of fly kind of quickly. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the unattractive things that men might do, maybe in a dating context, how they might try to overly impress you when they've already kind of won by getting the date,
I have a couple of experiences to go from. So I will say
none with me, thankfully.
What?
I said none with me, thankfully.
I mean, that's another conversation.
Yeah, I was kidding.
Anyways, no, but I will say, you were a prime example of a person that, I didn't go for just the looks. I was actually attracted to your energy and your intellect and how well you could carry conversations with the people around you, and the kind of conversations that we would have when we first met were pretty challenging conversations, and they were philosophical and just things that kind of make for a deeper connection rather than just your standard generic conversation.
Right. Overly sexually focused or overly superficially focused conversation is hard to build a lot of connection there.
Exactly.
I wear my heart on my sleeve, and it happens to be, I think you're a bit of a sapiosexual is what they call it now, but you like smart men, because it's more interesting for you. It's more engaging.
Well, because I like to learn. I'm just a generally curious person. And
I think you're a bit of a nerd.
I mean, just like a little bit, but I do enjoy learning from other people, and when they have something to teach me and that maybe I can teach them something else, or where we can learn from each other, I think that's a really cool thing. And just really quickly, I will say that two of the biggest things, biggest qualities that you have when we were dating is I really love the fact that you were never jealous. And that was a huge plus for me, because I think it's sexy. I think it shows that you're confident in our relationship. It shows that, you're confident in yourself, that, I'm not just going to like trade you in for like somebody that I meet at a bar. So I always thought that was a big plus in the relationship. Anytime that a guy gets jealous with me, it's just like a turn off.
It's, security shows two things. It shows that the emotions are real and they mean something to me too. I can bank on them and I trust them. So I also agree that there's emotions there. It's important for that. It's also important because a guy should feel like, hey, if you don't want to be with me, you're losing out. Not necessarily that I'm the best in the world, but I know that I'm very valuable and it stays with me. So even if you ended up with someone else, it's not because I'm bad or I've lost value. I know that you're losing out on something by leaving me or making that decision. And you bank on the emotions that you build together and the life that you talk about having together and the jokes that you make and the conversations that show that you're kind of in this together, and it makes you closer. But let's pivot. You were going to say there was two things there, but we'll probably end up having to do a longer call later if that's cool when you get back. But for now, two examples of bad habits on a date that guys might try to impress you. One of the things I want to get guys away from is feeling like they need to impress a woman to win her affection.
So I will say, don't get drunk on your first date or your second date. Please watch your drinking habits, because I get like people are nervous when they're on a first date, and some people tend to drink a lot when they get nervous because they think it'll make them feel more comfortable. But in the end, it has always backfired with the guys that have done this with me, and because it just shows me like, first of all, like you're not confident in yourself enough to not have to get drunk to feel comfortable. And two, you just end up making a fool of yourself. And I feel like I'm the one like babysitting you. So I don't like that. That's a big turn off when I'm on a date, if you get drunk and I'm not. So not cool. Second of all, do not assume that a woman wants to sleep with you just because, you guys are having a good time and you're making out, or, it's getting a little physical. Don't just assume. You should always ask the girl, like, do you want to go back to my place? And leave the choice up to her. I've had a couple of guys that I've gone on a date with. We have a couple of drinks, like there's a connection and there's a physical connection. And they get an Uber saying that we're going home, and then they don't even tell me, and we're already on our way to their apartment. Right. And when I realized that, I'm like, no. You're going to turn this Uber around. You're going to take me back to my place, because this is just not how you do things.
They tried to sneak it in instead of just presenting the option. Or Absolutely. The opportunity, I should say. It should be presented as an opportunity, like you can come back. Like, I'm going home. Like, we can go this way. So
don't ever do that, because I went on a date with a guy that I actually really liked. The date had gone really well, and he actually ended up getting drunk, unfortunately, toward the end of the night, got an Uber, was taking me to his apartment, and it just like, after that, I felt like totally disrespected. I had felt like, it was just, like, I was just like objectified. I don't know. Like, my opinion didn't matter. Like, you're going home with me whether you like it or not. So.
Right. And nothing's less sexy than feeling like you got manipulated or pressured into sex. Like, that's the least That's gonna dry a woman up quicker than anything else. Is being pressured to fuck somebody when it should just be happening. Like, if we're having a good time and having a date, invite me over. And if I come over, don't be like, you don't have to be like, oh, we're coming over to fuck each other. But it's understood that could happen when I'm there. Like, you're making that possible when you come over. But
it has to be communicated verbally that she accepts coming over.
Right. You want to give them the choice, and then when they decide to, that's a better signal that it's on.
And it's okay to be like, hey, like, do you want to come over for a drink after you've been out for the night and say the place closes down early or whatever? You can be like, well, I don't want to presume anything, but I just wanted to say, like, if you wanted to come have another drink at my place, you can, and no pressure. Like, we don't have to do anything. Just like preface it like that, and I think it's
usually when you do that, if the woman comes over, you don't even pour that drink. You start kissing, and then you can go straight to it if you want. And maybe
you can.
But the point is, by presenting it that way, the woman understands you're more sophisticated than a lot of men who, you've kissed me, now I'm gonna fuck you. Like, it's a lot of men are just not sophisticated. So you're showing you have a little bit more awareness, right?
Exactly.
Well, listen, I know that this was a brief call for guys. Can I open this up to like 1 or 2 questions? Do you have time, or do you need to run?
Yeah, no, that's good.
All right, cool. Let's whoever pops in first, guys, seize the moment.
How does this work? Do they like type it in?
Hi guys, this is Karthik.
Hi.
I have a question. Let's say if a girl goes to a guy's place on the first date, does it mean, let's say there was not much, maybe they had a kiss or they didn't have a kiss, but she was logistically moving to come to your place. There was good banter and date went reasonably well.
Yeah.
If she comes to your place, does it mean that she really liked you or not necessarily? And second question is...
Wait, hold on. Let her answer the first one first.
Yeah, I thought I can ask both together. Okay.
Okay. So I would say if she does accept your invitation to come over, it does mean that she's interested. Maybe not sexually interested right away, or depends on the woman, right? But for me, I have definitely accepted invitations to come over for a drink when I feel like there's more that I want to learn about this person. And there have also been times where I come over and, nothing sexual happens. Like, we just end up like having a good conversation, another drink, and obviously the guy will try, but it's just, and because I say no doesn't mean I'm not interested in you. It just means I'm not interested in sleeping with you tonight.
Yeah, a lot of times no means not yet. And it could be later that night or the next time we meet. Now, if it's been like 2 or 3 times and there hasn't been that, then it's probably a compatibility thing at that point. But, there's no rule that says first night has to be the only way to. Some guys think like that in this community.
I don't know. I didn't have this much problem before, but of late, a lot of girls have been coming over, but the majority has increased. And either they're just been in touch with me afterwards and they don't meet up again, or I don't hear back from them, or they say like, oh, I'm not really feeling it. So I was not, my friends argue that if this is happening often to you, it wasn't happening before, but it was happening like from last 2-3 months, but sometimes it is working too. But there are like, let's say if 10 girls came to my place, it's like I'm succeeding with like probably 1-2 girls, 1, 2, 3 max, 2 to 3 girls. I'm missing like 6-7 girls.
All right, so my initial response to that.
So I was not sure if a girl comes to your, why are they coming to my place? If they're not interested, they're like, if they're sexually not interested, they could be like, look, we should meet again sometime later and drop me off. I'm not understanding the logic behind coming to my place.
Right.
Okay.
Either saying that, oh, they're not interested or they're not meeting up again. Why are they coming for?
Hold on.
I would think that either the girls you're inviting over are like young girls that just want to keep the party going and they just want to come over. If that's the case, I don't know like what the circumstances around those invitations are, but sometimes that has happened, like where my girlfriends and I get invited to a guy's place after and we just come over because we just want to keep hanging out and we just want to keep the night going, but it doesn't mean that we were interested in the person. What else? I will say try to find a pattern. Is there something that you're saying? What is the commonality between these girls that are not coming back? Are you saying something specific? Are you making a move that maybe is too soon? I don't know. Is your apartment clean? It could be several possibilities.
That's true. I live in the city. My apartment is clean and it's in a very good area. And there is also a lounge. If they're not comfortable, I always bounce them. Look, if you're not totally comfortable, we can go to the lounge and chill or play pool. I always make a move. I don't pussy out. But if they're not ready for it, I take a step back and build more comfort or see what's stopping them. It's not like you have to jump on them.
Right.
But yeah, and also usually I don't ask girls like, do you want to go to my place? But instead I usually assume and probably say like, hey, look, I like talking to you. I think we should continue this over a glass of wine on my romantic patio, or just like you should come join me like that. I think that would be a best option than saying.
So here's the deal about that, Karthik. You have a very strong personality, so you're able to get women to follow your lead, but there's an element of sexualizing that is a little bit more subtle as well, and there's energies that go on into building things to a sexual crescendo that I imagine you're incredibly good at getting them logistically to come along.
Absolutely.
But you might be appealing more to in a way, to a logical part of their brain instead of an emotional or sexual part. And we'll talk more about that on
Thomas. I think that's right. I have very strong personality. People, even my guy friends, usually jump when I say things with authority at the same time with a cool vibe. So logistically, I can lead people like crazy. But that could be the reason sometimes emotion.
Right.
You made a great point.
We're going to talk later today on a one-on-one we've got planned. So we'll talk about that then actually. And not to cut this short because I'm enjoying the conversation, but I want to give one more person a chance to ask her a quick question before we call this. All right. Anybody else have any questions for her?
Yeah, I wanted to ask what the second thing was. She said she liked you weren't jealous. What was the second thing?
I'm sorry, it's a little bit hard to hear you.
John said, you said that the first thing you liked about me was that I wasn't jealous. What was the second thing you were going to say?
That you're very honest. That he is honest in a way where he will put honesty before himself, like before
sense even.
Hurting. Like, it's not that you brutally say things without any concern for other people's feelings, but I know that you just are really bad at lying. and I really love the fact that I would feel safe and secure in a relationship knowing that if I wanted to know the truth, I could get it out of you, or you would volunteer the information without me even asking you.
Right.
And even though it would hurt my feelings sometimes, because sometimes the truth hurts, but at least I knew that I was always getting the truth with you.
Yep. And that's powerful stuff. I actually tell guys all the time in this group, honesty is really so important. You know, when I make myself vulnerable, then you can make yourself vulnerable. And now we can have a deeper connection. Now we know if we like each other, we really like each other because we cut past a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
And also, I never liked the idea of men lying to a woman to get them to behave a certain way because they deny the woman the choice. What I've found in life as I've grown is presenting women with the choice, honestly, even if they don't like it, if you tell them what it really is, they can make a decision that you might not expect. And I'm not saying I was doing that with you, but generally there's so much to honesty. Whereas the other side is just so controlling. It's like, well, I'm not going to tell you the truth because you might behave how I don't like. And how you behave is really what I care about, and not you and your ability to make those decisions on your own.
Right, exactly. And I think that's a very important aspect of every relationship, is that you both are coming forward with your best foot forward in an honest way, because at the end of the day, you want this person to know who you are and to accept who you really are. Why put on this mask and pretend to be something you're not when you're trying to have a real relationship? And at the end of the day, time is going to go by, circumstances are going to come up, and she's going to figure out that you're not this person. And it's just going to create a whole lot of unnecessary problems that you should have just been honest about who you were from the beginning.
Ginny, thank you so much. I'm sorry, guys, that there wasn't more time for questions and stuff. We'll have to do this again soon. We can get better technical issues. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully you had fun.
Thank you, guys. It's short, precise, and perfect.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah,
You too.
have a safe trip, and take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.